June.
Yeah, well, I can't skip the eating
Thursday,
part.
it was earlier.
Regular meeting of the Township of Ocean Board of Adjustment, please come to order. Please call the roll.
June 20th. Nothing.
Mr.
Here.
Fisher? Mr. Fuller?
Here.
Mr. DeLuca?
Here.
Mr. Malta?
Here,
Mr. Manel?
No, Jen.
What?
Another good Jen.
Shepard? Mr. Snow? Mr. Van Wagner?
Here.
Mr. Worrell?
Here.
Chairman Good?
Here, please stand for the salute to the flag.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The notice requirements of the Open Public Meeting Law for this meeting have been satisfied. A copy of the notice having been sent to the Asbury Park Press and the Coaster and filed in the office of Township Clerk on July 25th, 2018. Emergency notice is an emergency exit through the courtroom doors and 2 exits to the rear of the room. Please note that no smoking laws are in effect here tonight. It's also board policy. No new cases will be started after 11 p.m. No new testimony taken after 11:30 p.m. In addition, each applicant will be limited to 45 minutes of testimony. Also, please note all meetings will be video and audio taped and shown on the Township of Ocean's Community Cable Channel, Channel 22 on Verizon Fios, and Channel 77 on Cablevision. All cell phones must be turned off. If you need to make a call, please make a call outside the meeting room. First item of business tonight is oath of office for our newest and returning members. Mr. Snow is not here.
Mr. Snow is not here, Mr. Chairman. If we could have Mr. Fisher and Dr. Fisher and Mr. DeLomo raise their right hands and read the oath of office in front of them, please, together. I,
I,
Tino
David
DeLamo,
Fisher, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same and to the governments established in the United States and in this state under the authority of the people. I do further solemnly swear that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform all the duties as alternate 2 member of the Township of Ocean Board of Adjustment according to the best of my ability, so help me God.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Mr. Fisher. Dr. Fisher's moving up from alternate 3 to alternate 2, and then moving on in July to council. Mr. DeLomo is now taking alternate 3, but when he goes, you may be alternate 2. But strive for the best. And good luck and welcome, both of you.
Thank you. Next item of business is minutes for approval of the meeting of April 18th, 2019. Someone who was here.
offer.
Mr. Worrell. Is there a second? Who was here?
I'll second.
Okay. Dr. Fisher, please call the roll. I'm
Just the two people.
sorry?
I believe it's only 2 from the last meeting that are here to memorialize. Yes.
Yes.
Is Rachel coming back?
Yes.
Okay. A couple of announcements. Following cases will not be heard tonight and will be carried to our meeting of June 20th, 2019. 485 South Edgemere Drive, LLC, Block 76, Lot 5, 485 South Edgemere Drive, West Allenhurst. Morris Dweck, Block 43, Lots 1 and 2, 300 Park Avenue, Deal Park. Abraham and Yvette Hidari, Block 22, Lot 101, 10 Portage Path, Deal Park. Faraja and Rebecca Salome, Block 22, Lot 44.02, 249 Oakbrook Avenue, Oakhurst. Richard DiPerzio, Block 122, Lot 8, 16 Wanamassa Point Road, Wanamassa. Orrin Linder, Block 40.03, Lot 3, 608 Deal Road in Ocean. This will serve as public notice. No further notice will be given. Next item of business is resolution memorializations. They're posted on the board. Unless someone needs it read in full, we'll offer them by title only. Amy will do them individually, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Jack Franco, Block 8, Lot 1, 11.01, 33 Old Farm Road, Oakhurst, bulk variance approval.
All over.
Mr. Worrell, is there a second?
I'll second.
Dr. Fisher, please call the roll.
Yes.
Yes.
Next item is Sarah Works of NJ LLC, Block 3, Lot 7.01, 2123 Route 35, Oakhurst. Bulk variance approval and site plan approval. Someone offer it.
I'll offer.
I'll second.
Call the roll.
Mr. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Royal?
Yes.
Anybody else at the meeting last week? You're the only ones here?
Slim Pickens.
Okay. Next is Abraham and Elisa Hadari, Block 53, Lot 2, 234 Crosby Avenue, Deal Park. Bulk variance approval.
I'll offer.
I'll second.
Call the roll.
Yes.
Mr. Royal?
Yes.
Okay, finally, the new cases tonight. Murray Batesh, Block 40, Lot 33, 500 Roselle Avenue, Deal Park, Zone R2. This is an application to construct a second-story addition with a balcony over the existing non-conforming dwelling and an in-ground pool with variances for minimum front and rear yard setback, as well as variances for maximum fence height. Attorney for the applicant, Jeffrey Donner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Good evening, Mr. Donner.
Good evening, members of the board.
Amy, could you mark the packet B1 with tonight's date? And we'll start with Mr. Higgins' report.
Yeah, sure. I'll summarize it. What they're proposing to do is put a second-story addition on over an existing first story. There are variances necessary for the setbacks because the existing building's not conforming. There's also a variance necessary for the brick paver patio in the rear and a proposed existing patio in the front. And they're proposing a deck in the front that's going to extend about 5 feet up to the front yard setback. My report had raised some concerns about proposed parking spaces that were shown on the latest plan. I discussed that with Mr. Besh today, and apparently that's not the case. That was an inadvertent layer of the print that was shown on the plan that wasn't supposed to be shown. They're reducing the curb cut on Monmouth Road, which is about 39 feet right now wide. They're reducing it down to what appears to be about 20 feet.
No, that was,
What? Okay.
let me get to that in my testimony, but go with it.
Okay.
He's not sworn either yet.
Okay, the plan I had showed that being reduced. If it's not reduced, I have a real problem. It has to be reduced
Alright.
to at least 20 feet.
Okay.
Also, they require a variance for the height of a hedge in the front yard. The hedge along Monmouth Road is set back, appears to be about 5 feet or so from the front property line, so it's in a front yard. It's a solid hedge, it's about 8 to 10 feet high. The hedge along Roselle Avenue is actually within the street right of way. It's been indicated to me that they're going to move it back behind the existing fence, but it'll still be within the front yard and require a variance, so the board has to listen to the testimony on that, decide whether or not to grant that variance. My biggest concern with that, this is a busy corner, so I can understand the wanting to have privacy, as long as those hedges are not within the site triangle at the intersection. We have to have some testimony as to that.
Okay. And do you want to take care of Mr. Fitzgerald's report?
I haven't seen it.
Okay. Neither have we, so let's see what we can do with it. Ron, did you hear anything from Bill about?
He had no substantive problems with it at all.
He seems to be deferring to the planner for certain of the variances and the heights, I think, of the hedges.
Hedges,
Yeah, that's what
Okay,
he is
yeah.
concerned about, and the site triangle, so we need to hear testimony.
And I know he does have, my discussions with him is he has significant problems with the width of the driveway as it currently exists also. So we have to have some testimony about that.
All right. Just if you don't feel it's necessary to read the whole report in there, we'll take it from the comments here. Okay. The rest of the packet consists of the plot plan, revised range on the plot plan, the zoning officer's report, planner's report, and the engineer's report. Good evening, Mr. Donner. The floor is now yours. Well, maybe not.
You ready?
Waiting for you.
Thank you. I have 3 witnesses tonight, Dave Besh,
who will address the issues in the Fitzgerald report. I have Mr. Murray Batesh himself, who will go over some of the issues on, especially the hedges and some of his concerns in regard to that. And I have Barbara
Jeff, could
Ellen,
you just
our
speak into the
planner.
microphone? It's not only for amplification, it's for recording, so we want to make sure we get you.
Okay. Did you miss everything I said so far?
No, I think we're all right, but
Okay.
those people out there in TV land might be disappointed.
3 witnesses. Is that better?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Mr. Besh, who will review the issues in the Fitzgerald engineering report. Mr. Murray Batesh, the owner of the property, who will address some of the issues behind this application. And Barbara Ellen, who's our planner. I would now like to call to the stand first, Mr. Dave Besh.
Raise your right hand, Dave. Good. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Your name and connection with the application.
David Besh, that's BOE Executive Vice President of Nelson Engineering Associates, and I'm serving as the project manager for this application for the firm.
Very good. And you've testified many times before this board, so we'll accept your credentials.
Thank you. What I have up on the easel first is a copy of the survey of the property, which I believe had been submitted as part of one of the initial packet items, identifying that the property, which is 500 Roselle Avenue, also known as Block 40, Lot 33, which is located on the northeast corner of the intersection of Monmouth Road and Roselle Avenue. The property is 175 feet wide by 100 feet deep. So it's got 17,500 square feet in lot area, where the R2 zone in which it is located requires 22,500 square feet. So we're a lot in deficient size, but there's no remedy to that condition, as the properties immediately adjacent are also developed and are also of deficient size. There's an existing 2-story frame dwelling located on the property, but it was placed extremely close to the northern property line in order to provide a 50-foot setback to both Monmouth Road and Roselle Avenue, Monmouth Road being a secondary arterial road in the town, and Roselle Avenue being a collector road within the town. So they're one a very well-traveled road, and the other a heavily traveled road within the township. And that description goes to why, one of the reasons why we're requesting the relief for the height of the hedge along those 2 roadways. The property currently takes access from Monmouth Road. The existing driveway does exceed the 20-foot width requirement. It's approximately 36 feet at this point in time. So I'm going to be shifting now to the plot plan. Should the plot plan be marked as
Yes, I was going to suggest that we would mark the survey as A1, applicant 1, and the plot plan as A2, applicant 2. Mr. Besh, referring to A2, would you please give us an overview of the project and what we're proposing to do?
Okay, there are 2 principal components to the application. One is the addition to the structure itself, where a 2nd floor addition is proposed at the eastern end of the building. But the floor area itself is immediately over top of the existing 1st floor footprint. There is an addition beyond the 1st floor footprint of a balcony along the southern facade of the structure, overlooking the Deal Country Club. The second part of the application is the proposed pool and patio at the western end of the site. Because of the reduced size of the property compared to the zone and the setback of the structure relative to the adjacent roadways, the pool has been set back tightly into the northwest corner of the property. Now, even though it sounds like we might be putting too much onto the property, when evaluating the building coverage and the impervious coverage, we are well within the maximum permitted coverages for this zone and this location.
I'm not sure if the difference is the next page.
Part of the plot plan design includes stormwater management facilities for the proposed additional impervious surface area. In Mr. Fitzgerald's prior report, he had outlined certain criteria that he wanted met for the stormwater management system, taking the volume of the 100-year storm and storing that volume for the new impervious surfaces, storing that in a stormwater management system, which we have shown, and we've provided the calculations pending Mr. Fitzgerald's final review and approval to confirm that indeed we have met his criteria.
But Mr. Fitzgerald, in his latest report, made some additional suggestions regarding the rainwater detention area and the facilities we put together. Could you briefly go over them and describe how we would react to those suggestions?
Okay, the basic comments were that as many of the existing roof leaders that can be tied into that drainage system should be, and we will. Another component was that the depth of the stormwater management system be over-excavated to deeper depth, and we will do that as well. Again, the others were just more technical details, and we will satisfy Mr. Fitzgerald in those aspects.
But in regard to the basic system that we have on our plan, are you aware whether or not Mr. Fitzgerald has approved that design and that system?
I believe by the limited number of comments that he has in his review letter that he has reviewed it and that we are in general compliance with his
And I would
requirements.
also note for the board, and I'm sure the board can read itself, but it does say in Mr. Fitzgerald's most recent report of May 13th, I have no engineering objection to the board granting approval upon this application, subject to finalization of all plans and supporting documents in all respects to the satisfaction of the board engineer, and that is acceptable to the applicant. Please continue with the rest of the description of the project.
Okay, there are two other principal issues related to the application. One is related to the width of the existing driveway, and the other is the height and location of the hedgerow that provides privacy along the adjacent roadways. With regard to the driveway, yes, we are requesting a variance for the width of the driveway that exceeds the 20-foot wide municipal requirement. However, this driveway egresses the property onto Monmouth Road, which is a county highway. Within the Monmouth County development regulations for properties along the county highway system, they require an on-site turnaround area to be provided so that vehicles exiting the properties will exit onto the highway head first. This additional width allows us to maneuver the vehicles into and off the property the way that the vehicles are currently entering the site and parking. They enter in from Monmouth Road, and then they park with the vehicle pointed to the north. That allows them, when exiting, to back out toward the house, to the east facade of the house, and then turn and exit onto Monmouth Road head first. We did
Why can't they exit via the original driveway instead of going straight out, make a little turn like most people do?
I'm not sure I understand what you mean by the original
Have to
driveway.
back out around to another width. Could have just been the width of like one parking space and then go forward into the normal driveway.
Well, if we're following not only the county regulations, and the town regulations, and residential site improvement standards, that 20-foot width would accommodate 4 vehicles pointed or headed west. there wouldn't be enough room to maneuver to K-turn a vehicle on site with that number of vehicles on site and still head out onto
Dave,
Monmouth Road.
what is the curb cut width?
The curb cut is approximately 36 feet wide.
And it's gonna stay 36 feet wide?
Correct.
Why is that necessary? Because it looks to me like there's plenty of room for somebody to turn around and go back out through a 20-foot wide curb cut.
So you're saying reduce the curb opening?
Yes.
I mean, I have noticed, I was there when I was actually measuring the fence.
See, that's what I'm getting to. You're going to have a 20-foot wide asphalt curb opening at Monmouth Road, and then it's going to widen up to 39 feet. Is that what you're saying?
No, we were looking to keep the existing driveway and existing curb opening as they currently are.
Which are 39 feet the whole way?
36 the entire way.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying is I don't see why you can't reduce the curb opening at the street, as was on the plan that I reviewed, and still have the room for people to turn around and go out front ways.
Right.
Could I ask one question of Mr. Best, which I think will point out the
Sure,
issue you're trying
sure.
to get to, Mr. Higgins?
Sure.
I appreciate that. Mr. Best, what Mr. Higgins is saying, that as he sees it, apparently we can maneuver cars on the driveway and pull out front first with a 20-foot wide curb cut. However, does that hold true if there is more than one car or more than two cars in the driveway?
If the vehicles are parked oriented to the north, then yes, that they can maneuver, they can back out toward the east facade of the building and come out and not need the full 36 feet.
Right.
One of the things that I did notice, again, was when I was measuring the fence to make sure that we had the proper greater than 50% opening. While I was on site, I did notice that a school bus actually entered the site to pick up. Now, that school bus did back out onto the highway, which I wasn't thrilled with. But not only do we have the property owner's vehicles on site, but we did have a school bus enter the site. That's why we were hoping that the additional pavement width would allow the flexibility of that action to continue to happen.
Why wouldn't that apply to any other site in the township? If a school bus enters the site? I mean, a school bus can stop in front of the building, in front of the driveway, put the lights on, and the traffic stops.
Yes, they can.
And that happens all over the township. It happens on Whale Pond Road, right in front of Joe Palea Park. So, to have a school bus, even now, if he goes in, he's gonna back out.
Understood.
So I don't think that makes a difference.
Understood.
Okay. Have you covered all
Excuse
of
me, one more thing. Dave, how many cars, I just want to try to follow
Just
you
one other
clear.
point is that the 20-foot wide opening would probably reduce the probability of a school bus going into the site to begin with,
Yes, it would.
which is, and having it back out is not acceptable.
How many cars do you show, or do you want to show parked in the driveway?
Well, we had, not that we wanted to stripe it out by any means, but we had just done an analysis with a 50-foot setback with the vehicles oriented to the north, leaving a 10-foot gap next to the structure. You could provide for 3 10-foot wide spaces and then another 10-foot gap to the property line. So we're accounting for the 3 spaces that are required under the residential site improvement standards while still allowing for maneuvering room both on the east and west end of the parking spaces.
It might help us all if you had drawn in the proposed parking spaces, if we have to revise this. Just, it'll be a lot clearer. I'm trying to picture what you're saying and what's here. Well, I didn't mean now, but I'm just saying, just the idea of you know, you orienting spaces and why you need all that room.
Mr. Best, do you perceive any safety issues versus Monmouth Road with leaving the curb cut at 36 feet? We're only talking about cars coming out of this residence, correct?
Correct, it is a residential driveway, so we're not talking about tremendous volumes entering and exiting the site. But again, we're just looking to provide the flexibility, not the flexibility, the requirement of the county to exit the property head first while providing for flexibility in parking on site. As I said, we can technically allow for 3 spaces and meet all the requirements necessary for setback and orientation, but still allowing flexibility that if we could squeeze a 4th one in, that would be wonderful.
Does this lot, because it's a corner lot, adjacent to 2 busy roadways, Roselle Avenue and Monmouth Road, does this present any particular additional safety considerations regarding young children boarding a bus? Let me rephrase the question. Is it safer that the children are picked up on the property by the bus pulling into the driveway than in the street? In the street, even if by law cars have to stop?
I do not agree with that, because on the street, the lights are flashing, the cars are required to stop. They're not required to have the lights flashing backing out onto the road, so.
Mr. Chairman, wouldn't that be the truth for every single house in?
Okay.
Yes.
Do you know whether or not the school bus backs out, or whether it does do a K-turn on the driveway and come out the front way?
That I didn't.
Okay.
Didn't
I want
notice.
to defer that issue because Mr. Patesh has additional
First of all, I'm
testimony.
Director of Security.
You're going to be sworn in, and then you'll start. Okay. Do you have any other aspects of the project you want to address to the board?
Well, we did want to talk about the height of the hedge and the location of the hedge. The applicant has agreed that, yes, the hedge will be relocated onto the subject property. We would ask
And that's the one on which street?
on
Roselle?
Roselle Avenue. The one on Monmouth Road is already on the property. On A2, there are designations for 2 separate site triangles. One is in accordance with the land use ordinance, section 21-55.4G1, which falls completely within the rights of way of various roads. And there's also one for AASHTO, the American Association of State Highway Transportation Officials, also designated, and that also falls completely within the rights of way of the roads. So the location of the hedges on the property does not impede any of the site distances for the intersection. The second issue that we're concerned with regard to the height of the hedges, and the owner will go into that in greater detail, is privacy and security. Because of the busyness of both roads, obviously, and the location of the structure, providing for the outdoor play area along the southern part of the property, privacy is very important to the applicant, with children playing in such proximity to those busy roadways. The other part is security, which Mr. Batesh will explain in greater detail.
Okay. Have you covered all of the elements of the project that are reflected on A2?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, Dave, first of all, what is the proposed height of the hedge?
We hadn't actually designated it. We were looking to utilize the plant material that's already in place, which I know
Which
ranges.
can grow quite high.
Yes, it can.
So, I think if the board is inclined to grant a variance, I recommend you put a height limit as to how high that hedge can grow, because it's a type of plant material that can be trimmed. So it wouldn't hurt the plants, wouldn't hurt the trees. But otherwise, you could have a 30 to 40 foot high hedge.
What would you suggest the height to be?
I would suggest 10 feet.
10 feet. Okay.
Now, the other question I have, and with getting back to the driveway, there's no garage on the property, correct?
Correct.
And I know this is, the applicant's gonna have a heart attack when I suggest this, but what would prevent eliminating the driveway on Monmouth Road and extending a driveway out to Roselle because the ordinance does require that the driveway be on the street of lower classification, and that's Roselle.
I mean, that's a choice, but when allocating funds for the
Well,
different components of the
I mean,
project,
my feeling is if the driveway on Monmouth can be reduced to 20 feet, I don't have a concern, but if for some reason that has to be 39 feet to accommodate a full turnaround and back out to Monmouth Road, I think that the Roselle Avenue access has to be looked at.
I understand your position.
I agree with Mr. Higgins. I think everybody else.
Yeah,
would,
I mean, from site triangle standpoint, what are the ASHTO standards? I mean, there's certain things that we very much defer to our professionals on, and that's one for me.
I'll just say, in terms of the bus pulling in there, I think that should be absolutely discouraged. I think the driveway is described with the right number of parking can certainly accommodate the turnaround with a 20-foot curb cut, and I would not support the application with anything larger than that.
Good point.
Just for the record, though, I want it noted that Mr. Besh did testify that the site triangles are all met within the right-of-way of Monmouth Road. So the driveway width has no bearing on the site triangle.
You're not being picked up on a microphone. You're not being picked up on a microphone. I'll never.
I just wanted to note that Mr. Besh did testify that the two site triangles that he has, noted for the board, those site triangles are all fulfilled within the right-of-way of Monmouth Road.
And I wasn't.
The driveway width doesn't bear on the site triangles.
I understand that. I was using that as an example because it's brought up in the report, but there are some, when it comes to safety concerns related to ingress and egress onto a major roadway or site issues, I was using it as an example. I very much defer to our professionals. You can understand it if it's a factual issue, if it's a de minimis argument in terms of things, I'm your guy, but otherwise, I'm deferring on this.
Okay. We've covered everything? Okay.
I hope so.
I will give over Mr. Besh to any further questions from the board of the public.
What, okay, so I heard there's a couple variances, just bear with me. The variance is obviously for the setback front and rear for the house, and it's gonna be on top of the existing house, understand that. And the pool, you've explained to push it back into that corner, you need that, okay?
Well, with regard to I think it's, Jim had mentioned a 7-foot setback to the apron around.
Yeah.
My understanding is that in zoning permit applications, a 3-foot wide apron is permitted around a pool
That's
where the setback
correct.
is measured to the water surface.
That's correct.
And on the north and west sides of the pool, the apron is limited to 3 feet.
It is, okay.
Okay, pool 3 feet, but then you have what about the south and east?
Well, the east faces the house, so it's not within the setback area.
And the south?
In the south, we're allowed to extend, is it 15 feet from the edge of the water?
What do they need a side and rear for? Why do they need
If they don't, I was taking this off the zoning officer's report, but Dave is correct.
Okay,
If
so
it's
they
a
do not,
3-foot
okay,
pool surround, they don't need
so
that.
they do not need, that's what I wanted to figure out. Okay, so they do not need a side and rear yard setback for the pool surround because it is only 3 feet wide.
Correct.
Okay, okay, if it's only 3 feet wide, it's considered a walkway as opposed to
That's
a
correct.
patio or what.
That's correct.
So that variance has been eliminated. Then I have 8 feet rear pool equipment. Where's the pool equipment?
The pool equipment is proposed to be located on the north side of the structure. The structure is only 12 feet off the northern property line, so the pool equipment with separation from the building and the width of the equipment would be 8 feet from the northern property line.
It needs to be 10.
It's supposed to be 10.
What's behind that? What does it butt up to?
It abuts to a residential property.
What part of the residential property?
I believe it's the garage.
Okay.
But there's also a 6-foot high solid vinyl fence along our northern property line, which I believe is
That's solid
adequately,
fence?
excuse me,
It's a solid vinyl.
solid
fence?
vinyl, yes.
Okay. So to
Providing
mitigate,
buffering.
To mitigate the 2 feet. Okay.
Correct.
All right. Solid fence. Okay. So that's that one. Then you got a front patio. Where's that?
There's an existing,
Right here.
That's
It's
new?
existing.
Pre-existing concrete patio located on the south side of the existing dwelling.
It's 34 feet when you need 50?
Correct. But that, again, it's a existing condition that we've,
Why does it need a new variance? Do we need a new variance?
Well, I don't think there's any record of it having been
Okay,
installed, and approved.
so
And
So-
it may have been legitimate, there's just no record.
front patio is 34 feet and you need 50. Maybe we can get from the applicant or somebody some testimony concerning how long that patio's been there and who put it in. Okay, that's the other one. And I guess the last one I have here is a rear patio. Well, we talked about the, I'll get back to that. We talked about the balcony, but it was a little confusing to me because it certainly doesn't overlook Hollywood. There's a couple houses in between.
well, it overlooks Deal.
What?
Yeah.
Oh,
Across the street.
Yes.
Okay. Wait. But I thought you said Hollywood. So the rear patio is where?
off the northeast corner of the structure,
And that's
there's
new.
an existing, pre-existing brick paver
That's
that,
also.
that also has a fence enclosure around it that served as the secure play area for the
Okay.
children.
So the rear is how big is that? Give me the dimensions.
Approximately
Yeah.
18 by 18
18 by 18, and it's surrounded by
by fencing.
Just
open fencing, closed fencing,
No, it's the solid vinyl.
vinyl fence, and that's we have that as 5 feet.
5 feet off the northern property line.
5 feet off. And is there another solid vinyl fence behind that? That's what it looks like.
The solid vinyl fence runs from the northeast corner of the building to the northern property line and along the northern property line headed west.
So there's like a little 5-foot corridor in between, but there's 2 fences. Is that what I'm looking at? Or is that the fence that you're counting at?
that's the
That's
fence.
the fence we're counting.
Okay, so it doesn't have its own fence. The play area doesn't have its own fence.
Correct. It
Okay.
uses the
It's the same fence that closes in the pool equipment. That's the same
Yes.
one along the back line.
yes.
That's the fence. And we don't know if we had permits for that, I assume. We need a little more testimony on that. And lastly,
Well, that fence does.
not the
No,
fence.
the fence, the
Oh,
patio.
the
I'm
patio.
talking about the patio. There's nobody cited you for the fence. I'm not coming up with that one, okay? And it looks like it starts 50 feet back, which is the requirement. It's not in the front yard, so it's fine.
Correct.
That's not a problem. So we need some information on those patios. I mean, maybe they existed or they were there when they bought it or whatever. We'll find that out. The last one, the balcony is where?
Balcony is located on the south face.
And it's further out than the existing house.
Correct. Where the existing house is 49.9 feet off the right of way of Roselle Avenue, the proposed balcony
It's 42.
is 42.9. So it's a 7-foot wide balcony over an
Okay,
open
and it's
porch.
Open on top?
Open on top and below. So it's not an enclosed porch, it's an open porch
Yeah, that's
below.
what I meant. Okay, it's open. And that's so that they can watch the traffic? Or,
So they can watch the action going on Deal Country Club.
okay.
It's the southern exposure, so it seemed the logical location for the balcony with the southern exposure.
Okay.
It's also off the master bedroom, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's probably the most appropriate location in terms
It's up to
of
the
the
board.
function of the site.
You know, I just wanted to, that's something that they're building further out than the existing second floor, and it is open. I don't, does it have, is it a solid railing, is it an open railing?
I do not know. I'd have to defer to what's depicted on the architectural plans.
Thank you.
Anybody else from the board or professionals? Anyone from the public have any questions about the witness on his direct testimony? No questions. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I would next like to call as a witness Mr. Murray Batesh.
Will you stand up, please?
Yes.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Just your name and connection with the application, please.
Say it again.
Just in the microphone.
Oh, Murray Batesh,
And your address?
500 Roselle Avenue, Deal, New Jersey, Deal Park, New Jersey, 07723.
Thank you.
You can sit down.
Okay.
Mr. Batesh, are you the owner of the property in question?
Yes, I am.
And is this your residence on a full-time basis?
Yes, it is.
Describe your family for me very briefly.
Married for 12 years. I've lived in Ocean all my life. My I have 4 children, all young, 2, 4, 6, and 8. I'm sorry, 4, 6, 8, and 10. Planning on growing my family even more. My house has 4 bedrooms. They're smaller bedrooms. We've definitely outgrew the space that we have now, so we're adding this addition so we can have enough bedrooms for my family.
Okay, so the genesis of the application and what you're doing to the house is the fact that you need more room for your family.
Correct.
For your principal residence.
Correct.
Right, now, in the meantime, we've had an issue that's been discussed regarding the hedges along the Roselle Avenue side of the property. We've heard that there are security and privacy concerns in regard to those hedges. I'd like you to discuss for us and explain to the board what the security concerns are.
So about 5 years ago, I lived there 7 years. About 5 years ago, a car stopped while my kids were playing out front. Started talking to them. Very oddly, I came outside, and the second I came outside, this person got into the car and zoomed away. It was a very, very scary and traumatic experience. It's on the corner of 2 major roadways. I have no backyard for my kids to play. This is the only place that my children can play. I am the director of security for Hillel School. Security is this is what I do for a living. And for my own house not to be secure, right away I went to the town the next day. I asked them about putting the trees in, and I put them in right away, right after.
And when did the sidewalk in the area come in? Was that before or after?
So the sidewalk was, they told me, when I went to the township, they told me that it has to be 10 feet from the street with no sidewalk and 15 feet from the street with a sidewalk. At the time, the curbing and the sidewalk was not installed. When the township did the whole Monmouth Road section, I asked the town, and I paid for it, to do the sidewalk on the Roselle end, and I did the sidewalk up the block because I wanted to improve the block. And I paid for it to the end of my property. So the sidewalk was actually put in after the bushes were put in.
Now, we talked about the hedges being up to 10 feet in height. Do you feel that the height of the hedges are important to preserve? Let me finish the question.
Sorry?
To preserve the security step that you're trying to take through these hedges.
100%, 100%. And I've kept the hedges at about. I don't measure them, to be honest with you. But if you look at the top, it's a flat top. We do trim them.
They appear to be 8 to 10 feet height.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to give an exact
If
number.
you want to look at the Deal Country Club, you don't want
I
30
will
foot
never.
high.
I don't want my trees to be
Yeah,
30
yeah,
feet.
yeah,
I think it's
yeah,
ugly and gross.
yeah.
So I'm not opposed to doing 10, 12, like whatever amount of feet, a normal amount of feet. And it's my block. I live there. I take pride in the area.
Can I ask you, you don't, there's a security difference between 10 feet or 12 feet, right?
No,
Okay.
I'm fine
I
with
mean,
that.
I don't have an issue, I'm just,
Okay.
like, jumping
And
ahead.
you-
with
I
the
just don't
side-
went by mistake for 11 feet. I don't want to.
Yeah, but I don't have a problem with the sidewalk and the way that came about, and that,
No, but the problem is that the trees along Roselle are on township properties and not on his.
Well, we're about to.
And
Right, I
the
wasn't there yet. I was
the
on-
discussion about setting the trees back from the sidewalk, that there was a misunderstanding there, I'm sure, on the part of the municipal officials, because is for street trees. That's not for a solid hedge. That would be for street trees that are maybe spaced 30, 40 feet apart, that are
Alright, so-
deciduous.
So,
But continued up the block
That
is.
being said, yeah, no, I mean, there's other properties in this immediate area that have very similar type hedges around them, and so I don't have a problem with that. One thing just occurred to me, and I think we need Mr. Besh's testimony on this, is the latest plan that was submitted has a drainage structure directly behind the fence on Roselle Avenue. And the question I have is, if these trees are moved back, can they be put over that drainage structure?
What I would recommend is that we actually move the drainage structure back to accommodate the
As long as
trees.
that can be worked out with Bill, I don't have a problem.
and then he's already indicated that it's subject to his final approval anyway, so, okay.
so we are moving the trees on Roselle Avenue
Right behind.
to the other side of the fence.
Yeah.
Right, that's what I wanted to cover.
Okay, and the condition would be they be maintained at a maximum of 10 feet high. Go to something else.
And you have committed to move the hedges to the other side of the fence. That's part of our proposal.
Not a problem.
Right. There was some discussion about the patios in the rear and the front. And did you install those patios in the
No.
property?
No, and if you actually look at the cement of the patio, if you go to Google Maps from 10 years ago, you'll see the same patios have been there. The cement is, it needs, everything needs to be repaired. We plan on repairing it, but you could see from the walkway and the patio that's there, it's been like that since my mother-in-law lives a few houses down from 1957, and she said that has been like that since they built the house. By the way, also the driveway has been like that since the house was built.
There was a question about the railing on the balcony level that we're proposing. What kind of railing is that? Is it open or closed or what?
I mean, I prefer it open, but if the township,
No, they would too.
oh, okay, I prefer. I
Not to-
want to sit down and I want to see the golf course. I like golf. I love
No,
to
but I mean,
watch golf.
You're gonna put
spindles
spindles
or glass, some sort of
or glass or something, but
Yeah.
they would be.
something I
I
can see
think
through.
there's code requirements for children that they can
They
have to be
a certain width.
certain
Yes.
width and
Yes.
whatnot, but you're not planning on a solid
I don't believe so. No,
Other than
unless there's
glass.
glass. Is glass okay?
glass you can look through.
That's it. It's
No,
always-
I mean there's a look. The house becomes
I want to be able to sit in my
nasty-
chair and look at the golf
right,
course.
but the mass of the house becomes exaggerated if you're going to put a solid 4 or 5 foot
Oh no.
fence
No, no,
around
no,
the
no.
balcony.
No,
it's a different look than an open balcony.
Yeah, no, it would be
So
an
it'll
open
be
style
open.
balcony.
Okay.
Sure.
I want to address the school bus issue and how your children get picked up by the bus and what the bus does to pick them up. Could you describe that
First of all, it's for the school that I work for, so this was a setup that we did. Because it's not a large school bus, it's a mini school bus, first of all. Second of all, when the school bus does pull in, it does, otherwise what happens
Use the
is-
microphone, Mr. Vitesh, right behind you if you're going to do that.
School bus waits for the kids. She's 4, she's little. So what happens is when the school bus stopped here, the traffic would be backed up for who knows how long. So what the school bus does is in the morning when the school bus comes, there's no cars in the driveway, or one car my wife's holding. So it's able to actually make the U-turn and pull out of the driveway forward. I could show you, I have video cameras. I can go back to any date that you'd like. It always pulls that forward. That's one thing that's very important. Secondly, I just want to correct something. The cars, when they do pull in the driveway, in order to, we would have to make a full K-turn and keep on reversing in order to go out there. If it was a 20-foot section instead of a 30, whatever it is now, 30, I think it's 36 now.
And they're proposing 20.
Right, so the 36 is important. I live there. So when the car is parked right over here, you would have to pull all the way back, and it's just too much reversing and backing up. And I'm afraid for my children, having cars backing up every minute to be able to get out. If you look, when the car is parked right over here, they back up a drop and then just pull straight out. I mean, it's not like it's not a parking. Oops, sorry. So I mean,
How many car movements per day are we talking about in and out of the driveway?
a lot.
How many is a lot?
Okay, so this neighborhood, that neighborhood is my whole family. My mother-in-law lives on Crosby. My sister-in-law lives on the corner of another corner of Roselle. So my family's in and out of that house a lot. If you pull into my driveway, there could be 6 cars at a time. There could be 4 cars, and there's really nowhere else for them to park except for the driveway because you can't really park on Monmouth Road, and it's really not so great to park on Roselle. So I need those extra spots. We need the extra space to be able to fit 6, 8 cars or whatever it is into my driveway. If you drive by my house at any time, and then I'll go to my video now, there's probably 4 to 6 cars in my driveway. We have a lot of company. My house is always open. And it's very important to me to have family and friends over. And there really is no other place for them to park except for that parking spot, those spots. And if I take any away, I'm losing spots. Right now I could fit 5, 6 cars in the driveway if I have to, comfortably, and they could pull out straight without having to go in reverse.
Have you observed any impediment to traffic on Monmouth Road by the use of your driveway at its current width
I could go back a week and I can guarantee every single car that reverses out of my driveway almost has an accident. Almost every single one. I would say 3 times a year on the corner, something around that area. It's a very unsafe and not unsafe road. And it's very important to be able to pull
But
out
the question I asked is
Sorry.
your driveway at the current width making Monmouth Road more unsafe?
No, not at all. If anything, it makes it safer. Because
That was my
people,
question.
it's 100% safer because people are going out. First of all, it's wider. So having it wider, when a person is pulling into the driveway, if somebody's pulling out at the same time, it stops the traffic, and you're stopping the whole flow of Monmouth Road in order for a car to get in and out. You have to wait. So if a car is in the middle of making the K-turn, you can't pull in on the side and wait for the car to make the K-turn in order for the car to pull out. So you're stopping the whole flow of traffic on Monmouth Road, waiting for the car to make the K-turn to come out. It's just, it's not safe. It's not safe.
So you think it would be rendered less safe than it is now?
100% in my
with
opinion,
a
it would be
20
less safe.
foot width?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. DeLong had a question.
Yeah, I have a question for
Sure.
you. How long ago did you buy your house?
I believe it's 6 or 7 years ago.
Okay. And you said that driveway has been the same width since you purchased the house?
Since 1960, my mother-in-law said that it's been like that.
And you haven't done any improvements to
Zero.
the driveway since you moved
Zero.
in? Thank you.
And you could even look at the, I'm sorry, the town did, when they did the roadway, they just did the curbing, and maybe 10 feet of the driveway they had to repave to match where the sidewalk is, but we didn't widen it or change it, or I didn't even asphalt it yet, or put any type
And
of...
after the town did the work, the driveway still stayed the same width
Correct.
from
Nothing
when you
was
first
changed.
purchased the home?
Correct. Nothing has changed from 1960 till now.
Thank you.
Just to clear the record up, the survey which was done in '77 shows the driveway width being approximately 15 feet, maybe 20 feet.
Well, you wanna mark this? Was this in our packet?
It's in the packet. It was what was
Well,
submitted with the application.
I don't think it was in the packet
Really?
to the
Was
board.
it? Oh, okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
so, I guess this is yours, you submitted it.
I don't...
This is, well, we'll enter it. This is a survey
Yes.
for Morris and Frida
Frida Bibby.
Bibby. I don't know, is that who you bought the property from?
No.
No, okay. Well, how did we get this?
That's
It
not
was
from
submitted
me. I
with the
didn't submit that.
application. Is what was presented to me with the documents for the application.
I don't know. I didn't submit that.
Well, I guess we'll make it a board exhibit then, if you want it.
What's the date of that survey?
The date is
June 8th, 1977.
1977. And it also doesn't show front patio.
Is there a way to test the asphalt to see how old it is? I mean,
Mr. Chairman?
No, it's dated. I don't know where it came from. Did we put it with the file?
It was with the documents were given to me by the township to review. So it had to have been submitted by the applicant.
Okay.
We wouldn't have gone into the problem.
They're required to submit a survey with the plans. This is probably what they did. And I think they did an updated survey in the last couple of years that was also submitted, but I don't have that here in my file.
So we'll mark this as B2. And it is location survey for property of Morris and Frida Bibby, and dated June 6, 1977, prepared by William D. Ayers, Jr. B-E-N-L-S. I think whoever submitted your application submitted this with it.
I have no further questions of
Okay.
Mr. Patesh.
John, do you have a question?
Yeah, sir, the town
You wanna
did
pass that to the board after you mark it?
the town did the sidewalks in what year? Is that right? And is that right? The town did, not the county. It's a county road, but the town would have done the sidewalks.
we paid half. The town paid half, I believe.
You do, yeah. You always have to pay, right?
Yeah.
But-
I don't want to give it false information. I'm not sure exactly.
Do you know what year?
I don't know exactly.
But within the last 4
5?
years. And so they did the apron as well,
Yes.
the curb cut.
Yes.
Did anybody say
No.
this is pretty wide?
No.
Curb cut.
Can I follow up on something with that, Mr. Chairman, real quick? Didn't really just ask Jim, but since you're up here, Mr. Vitish, maybe you can. So let's say, well, In 1977, it was.
Somebody expanded it.
I mean,
Somebody
for the
expanded
last,
it.
let's say
I'm
for the
not
last
saying the
15 or
applicant did,
20.
he bought
I
it that
know,
way, he says, that's
Right,
fine.
but, you're right, but I'm saying, let's say it's 15 or 20 years it's been that way, maybe. What is the, I mean, if it's been safe that long, what would be, I'm just trying to understand the safety concern, because we have to decide on it.
Yeah, and like, I don't disagree with what the applicant's testifying to, but he's not a traffic expert. I'm not a traffic expert. Bill has a lot more expertise in traffic engineering than I do. Bill is adamant that the sidewalk or the driveway should be reduced, the width of the driveway
Okay.
at the curb cut should be reduced.
I mean,
And
I'm always
I know
guided by this.
he would not advise you that he would believe it's safe. He would tell you, get somebody in here that has the expertise to tell you it's safe.
And we're not asking the applicant to reduce the size of the driveway,
Right, just the curb cut.
just the curb cut.
And that was gonna be my next question. You're talking about K-turns and everything inside the driveway. I didn't hear that from the beginning of our expert's testimony that there was anything objectionable other than the size of the curb cut.
So
The only thing I was gonna say, and I appreciate what you're saying, because I want to make sure I heard it right. Your concern then is off, so for the safety off-site onto Monmouth Road where if someone, now two cars can pass each other going in.
correct.
That's the
100%.
boiled down your concern.
That's the whole thing.
Because
You
it
got
can
it.
only be that, because you can still turn around and do all the K-turns.
No, you got it. You got it. That's
Right, so
exactly
now
what
we
it
have-
is.
We have to.
One person is pulling in, one person pulls out. It doesn't stop traffic. It doesn't give.
But we need
Sure.
somebody who's
We're
got
at 1
a
hour.
number of letters after their name to tell us that. And I mean, truly, right? I mean, that's what
And
we're dealing with.
realistically, if you have a 20-foot wide driveway, somebody can come in and somebody can pull out at the same time.
See, that's what, I think that's where.
You know, Mr. Higgins says he doesn't have credentials in the area, but he's giving us testimony as though he does.
He's
I
got a
will-
lot-
I will
he's
note
got a
for
lot
the
of
record-
experience, counts for
I
a
will
lot.
note for the record, though, that if you were talking about Mr. Fitzgerald, as Mr. Higgins made a reference on page 2 of his report of March 13, 2019, he states, the applicant should provide a positive reason for the granting of the variance, as well as any negative impact. I have concerns that a 36-foot wide unrestricted access along Monmouth Road at this location could be a safety concern. So it's a much more muted statement, and what he was looking for was reasons
He was
from the
looking-
applicant.
Jeff, he was looking for a traffic expert to give testimony that it's safe.
I wish he had talked to me about that, because I talked to him a lot and I wasn't aware if that was an issue.
Okay.
I would have had a
Yeah, he
traffic
was-
expert.
Jeff,
When I
I
talked to him, he was adamant.
two things, Jeff. Number one, we've reached our time limit. If this thing. Number two, I suggest that you get together with Dave and Bill between now and the next meeting. Give us some alternatives on this driveway and the traffic pattern. You might want to have a semicircular driveway entrance on one road, the exit on the other. I don't know, but I suggest that, because we're beating this dead and we're getting no place, that you want to get together with Bill and your experts before the next meeting, and then maybe we can just a simple resolution of it.
Or maybe he can tell you what kind of expertise that he wants to
Yeah,
obtain, where it's at, what it is, but I don't think right now.
Bill has to
Are
lead on
we at the
this.
very end of our time? I don't have
We
time
are at
for
the end of our time.
planning expert.
Yeah, we have 45 minutes, and we started at 7:30.
Started about 7:45.
7:40.
7:40.
7:40.
7:40. Oh, all right.
So,
Um,
I mean, either way, it's,
Is that
it's
another
over
expert in
45
10
minutes.
minutes?
at this point.
I think I can get it on and off within 10 minutes.
How can she testify
I don't know.
if
Yeah.
we don't have the safety issue on the width of the driveway? She can't testify there's no negative impact, because you don't have an expert here to testify to that. And I'm putting myself in her shoes. If I'm in her shoes, I don't want to get up and try and get testimony to something when it's not on the record.
the two will work together. Right.
I think the applicant is prepared to go to the 20-foot curb width, just to see what we get done. If I can have 10 minutes with Barbara Allen, I think we can present the whole application.
But the driveway could stay the same, right? I just want to make sure that that's.
The
Yeah,
width
that-
of it-
The width
it's
of the
curb cut
driveway
onto Monmouth Road.
inside the property line, as long as you have at least 20 feet from where the driveway widens to the curb of the street, so that a car can sit there and look up and down both ways and not have its visibility blocked. Okay.
20 feet at Monmouth Road, it can be wider, the full width is
Yes,
now on the
yes,
property itself.
that's correct.
Thank you, Jim. All right, I would withdraw
What?
my question from Mr. Batesh and call my planner, Barbara Allen.
Ms. Alex, what's up? What I'm saying is that, yeah, what I'm saying is it has to go like that. That has to be at least 20.
Really 10 minutes, Jeff?
I'm gonna move it very quickly. Okay.
I could do a 10-minute testimony.
I don't know.
Raise your right hand, please. You swear the testimony about to give the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth is help you God?
Yes, I do.
Would you give us your name and connection with the application?
My name is Barbara Allen. My last name is Ehlen. I'm from Beacon Planning, and I'll be acting as the land use planner for this application. I've testified before this board
I believe you testified.
a number of times.
She's been qualified, yes, previously,
Okay.
on her applications.
So
Okay.
I would like to start off with just a brief aerial of this overall neighborhood. It's an aerial from Google Earth with the subject property starred. I just wanted to take a note to discuss the character of the area. You can actually see that there is a number of pools throughout the area, and it's a very common accessory to the neighborhood. And you can see how they're in close proximity, necessarily to property lines, particularly the neighbor to the north. We're asking for several variances.
We have withdrawn the driveway width one.
Yes.
And the pool surround.
And the pool surround. Maybe if I wait a few minutes, I can get a few more knocked out.
So let's address the front yard and side yard setbacks and just take it right there.
All right, so the front yard, where 49.9 feet exists to the building, and it's proposed as second-story addition, as well as the rear yard setback of like 12.5 feet, was it? Mm-hmm. And then we're proposing a 42.9 foot setback to the second floor balcony. As been discussed, the house footprint is established, and they're just proposing to expand to the second story, which would be a normal addition to our home and would blend in. They're not they're not proposing to expand beyond the footprint. The balcony is proposed off of the master bedroom, and as it will be open, it'll present a de minimis visual impact into the neighborhood, and we'll go over, look over the golf course. Sorry, froze for a sec. When we're looking at the patios, the first patio you can see here is a small intrusion to the front area. And the second one is to the rear of the home, which you can't see because it's all tree covered. The rear patio, as has been established, the home's footprint is established, and it only gave a 12.5 foot rear yard setback. The patio is actually off of sliding glass doors and acts as a small play area. I would say that it doesn't present the same visual intrusion because it's a patio, it's not a solid structure. And then it's also buffered by a 6 foot fence. The patio to the front is also a de minimis intrusion, as is flat surface, and it's not presenting the same intrusion as an enclosed area would. The proposed, let's see, I've knocked out those.
The accessory structures.
Accessory structures. Well, we knocked out the pool rear and side.
The pool equipment.
The pool equipment, okay. So the pool equipment is proposed to be 8 feet off the rear property line where 10 feet is. They're proposing to tuck it in along the back of the house, which would be normal. Unfortunately, this is a corner lot which has its own hardships, and that they have to meet the frontages from both. This is effectively eliminated a rear yard for them. And so they are proposing an 8 foot that will be buffered by a 6 foot fence, and it also is along an area that's also improved by the neighbors for pool equipment and things of that nature. When we talk about,
The fence that we're proposing is that a solid fence in the front yard?
no, the fence that we're proposing is compliant with the regulations of the town.
Is compliant.
The fence itself is
It's a
compliant.
hedge.
If I can, I'd like to introduce 2 photos of the property.
First of all, we didn't mark that one.
Oh.
Okay.
That's gonna be A3.
That would be A3, I guess. What is that, a Google map?
It's the
Yes.
overall area picture.
A3 would be Google map, aerial.
And then your other photos are A4.
Fence is not a variance. The fence is not a variance.
Fence is not a variance.
The fence is not a variance, it's the,
It's the hedges. A4 represents two photos that I took of the property on May 15th. The first is depicting looking, I'll get this right, east across the front, and you can see how the hedges provide a little bit of shielding, and this is as a play area, and this is the play area in the western part where the pool will go and be fenced in. So you can see that the hedges provide a measure of privacy and security along two major roadways. It's not uncommon within the area to have hedges. Some homes in the area had just planted, others were more established. But it is also I would say more common on corner lots where people are seeking to have a rear yard and have some of that privacy.
In your opinion, does the busy nature of Roosevelt Avenue and Monmouth Road and the experience that Mr. Vitesh has related to the board about concern for the safety of his children, does that warrant this type of a variance?
Yes.
In this circumstance?
Yes, I would agree.
Okay.
And when we want to talk about the master plan, which we always want to bring in, it talks about this area as being an established neighborhood and that most construction will actually deal with reinvestment, and that's what the applicant is proposing. He's proposing reinvestment in a neighborhood to keep the neighborhood integrity there and to keep a house there and just modernize it from a current family, as many of these homes are over 50 years old and are feeling their age.
Are there any negative impacts on neighboring properties or on the master plan or the zoning ordinance of the township?
There are no negative impacts. The property is being used as it is supposed to be. It's a single family home in a single family neighborhood. It won't generate any more trash, traffic, or noise than is anticipated with the proposed addition. And the neighbors, it's similar. They're 2-story homes, parking, pools. It's a very cohesive, I guess, in that respect.
Okay, I have no further questions.
Well, do you have a figure for lot coverage? I didn't see that in any of the stats. Oh, maybe Mr. Vitesh.
I know we're below.
Sorry.
We're at 16.6%, where 22% is permitted, and for total, that was for building coverage, and for maximum impervious coverage, 75% is permitted, and we're at 57.27%. So we're well within.
Anybody else on the board have any questions? Professionals? Audience have any questions? Witness? Thank you very much. Okay, now we're over.
Can we do a vote tonight?
Yes. Are you finished? You want to sum up?
I think the project speaks for itself.
Thank you.
There's nothing I can really add that the board doesn't really know, and I don't want to take up
voting subject.
but I would like to get a vote if at all possible.
That's what we do.
Yeah, they have to be subject to revised plans being submitted to the satisfaction of, probably to both Bill and I. It's more Bill than me, but
Okay.
probably should be both of us.
Fully acceptable.
The only other condition that I hear, unless the board has others, and you can talk amongst yourselves, is that the curb cut on Monmouth Road is to be reduced to 20 feet.
That's
Okay.
correct.
And
And
hedges
the
kept
hedge
to
height
10
be
feet.
limited to 10 feet.
Right, that's
We've
the other
agreed
one.
to that as well, and we're moving to the other side of the.
And the rest you can work out with
Yeah.
post.
Well, then he's
Yeah.
gonna resubmit new
Mhm.
plans to be approved.
Yeah, because the new plans are gonna require that the drainage structure on the north side of the fence be moved further towards the building so that the shrubs, the trees can be planted.
Based upon that, I'd make a motion to close the public record.
Is there a second?
Second.
Close the public hearing. Mr. Worrell, call the roll.
Close the public hearing. Not the-
Yes.
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 Yes, someone want to move the application?
I'll move the application subject to the terms described by Mark and the Jim and Bill's review.
Bill's review.
So that the curb cut, the fence, hedge fence
The
limitation.
conditions basically are the curb cut, the height of the hedges, the moving of the hedges, and revised plans, subject to Bill and Jim's approval.
What he said.
I'll second.
Seconded. John seconded. Call the roll, please.
Yes.
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 Thank you, members of the board. I just have one further question. Would it be permissible for us to make application for our building permit and maybe do some preparatory work on site at our risk, pending the understanding that unless we have resolution compliance, there will be no CO?
Didn't you just ask that?
I asked for the board because I don't want to.
They don't have
Board
jurisdiction.
has
They have no jurisdiction.
They have no jurisdiction to grant that.
Okay.
You know, you need to revise your plans, but if you're satisfied, you can submit your building application at any time.
Okay, we're gonna do that, but I mean, we'd like to start some preparatory work if possible, because it's a summer project.
Not until such time as Uniform Construction Code permits are approved.
You can apply for
You
it.
can apply for them tomorrow.
First, you gotta change your plans.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay, John.
Thank you.
I will send you a proposed resolution. I'll email it to you before the next meeting.
I appreciate it, Mark. Next meeting is June 20th? June 20th?
Yes.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay, thank you. Next application is Scott and Cindy Van Bovel. David,
Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it. Thank you for serving our town.
lot 182, lot 46, 19 Fieldstone Lane, Wayside, in an R3 zone. There's an application to keep a 6-foot vinyl fence and paver patio with a variance for construction in a flood zone.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. May I proceed?
What? No.
No.
Would you,
That's why I asked.
okay.
What
Amy,
was,
would you mark the packet B1, please?
we missed that. What'd you say?
I just said, may I proceed? And he said, no, you may
Oh,
not.
no, okay. Then don't ask.
Don't.
Just do what you need to do.
That's not what I was gonna say, were you?
Jim, can we start with your report, please?
My report, basically, I don't have any issues from a planning and zoning standpoint. There's environmental issues with the site, 100-year floodplain, I believe, and the issues were really all engineering on Bill's part. If you didn't have the environmental constraints on the site, there'd be no variances necessary.
We should get Bill's report. It's short, I'll read it in. General, the revised, this is his report dated May 8th, 2019. The revised grading plan addresses revisions that are required to be made in previously submitted plan as follows. Note, underlined statements provide explanatory and supplemental information. Revised proposed west side yard swale. The proposed swale grading has been adjusted as recommended. That prior review is acceptable. Provide a 10-foot wide drainage easement along rear line. The requested 10-foot drainage easement is depicted upon the current grading plan, both in plain view and upon the attached detail to be formalized the execution and filing of a written easement agreeable, acceptable to the board attorney. The easement agreement shall identify maintenance obligations of the property owner and grant certain specific rights to the township. The general form of easement agreement may be customized. By a trench drain, the required trench drain is shown on the plan. More details about it. In view of the above, it is my recommendation that board vote to grant any and all required variances and approve this matter at its May 16th meeting, subject to the following conditions. 1. All required plan revisions shall be finalized and submitted for signature of the board within 30 days of the 5/16/19 vote. The required easement agreement shall be finalized to the satisfaction of the board attorney and executed by applicants within 30 days of the 5/16/19 vote. All municipal construction permits shall have been applied for and made complete within 30 days of the 5/16/19 vote. Publication of the board's memorializing resolution with an acceptable newspaper shall be accomplished within 7 days of the board's adoption of several of said resolution. Satisfactory completion of all improvements depicted upon the approved grading plan shall be completed. Fail to comply with any conditions of approval required shall be a violation of the approval granted by the board and should result in the issuance of a notice of violation. Okay, so it looks like he has no problems with it. Okay, would you raise your right hand, please?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
You swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do, sir.
Name and address, please.
My name's Armin McCumber of the law firm McCumber PC, Red Bank, New Jersey, 54 Shrewsbury Avenue, Red Bank, New Jersey.
Okay. Unfortunately,
I don't think we need to swear them in, though. Like,
They do in Red Bank. It's weird. They swear in lawyers.
We
Yeah, I
We
don't-
didn't know what your
well,
relationship
lawyer,
was.
they feel the need to make sure lawyers telling the truth.
I wonder why.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, if I can, just very briefly, and I think I can cut to the chase on this. Again, I represent the applicant, Scott and Cindy Van Baffel. After the application was initially filed, Mr. Fitzgerald, and there has been a drainage issue with standing water in this area in the back for quite some time, along with contiguous neighbors. There's been some problems. Mr. Fitzgerald, after the application was filed, took it upon himself very proactively to get involved to help not only my clients but some of the contiguous neighbors to devise a plan which he believed would not only allow the variance to be granted but also address the drainage issue. And he has been very firm and very clear as to what he believes will solve the problem. He's communicated both with not only with me, with the applicants, with our engineer, but also Mr. Rocinio on behalf of the contiguous neighbors and some of the other neighbors. And we are very, number one, thankful to Mr. Fitzgerald and your professionals in general for their help. And number two, just on behalf of the applicants, we agree not only to comply with what Mr. Fitzgerald has requested heretofore, but also all of the conditions of approval set forth in his letter of May 2019. We agreed to. We've had Ms. Galvin, our engineer, spoken to Mr. Fitzgerald. I spoke to him today, and we have agreed, and on the record, I'd like to agree to comply with everything that he is requiring on the timetable that he's requiring. So I don't really, Ben Baffles are here today. If there's any questions, Mr. Fitzgerald didn't feel it was necessary to have my engineer here tonight because they have worked it out, and as long as we comply with what he's recommending, which we will do, he felt comfortable that we could proceed, and so that's what we would ask, Mr. Chairman.
okay, thank you. Anyone from the board have any questions for this witness?
Nope. I guess only if you present testimony and you mentioned.
He said they're going to comply
Okay.
with everything in Bill's report.
Right, okay. But you also mentioned that there were discussions with contiguous neighbors and their
They're
attorney, who I
here.
think is.
Mr. Rocinio's sitting in
No,
the
no.
back there, and
if they're fine.
Nobody asked for questions.
certainly any comments he has. I know that Bill's been extremely proactive and will send emails out not only to me but also to Mr. Rocinio and another contiguous owner, so that there's full transparency. The timetables have been established. Mr. Fitzgerald expects us to meet these timetables, which we will do. And he's been very open and very transparent with everybody in the process that this is what I want. This will help the situation. This will be a benefit not only to this situation but to all of the neighbors. And this is what he expects. And with Mr. Fitzgerald, you just say yes.
Okay.
Usually,
If you want to get approved. I'm saying with you, Mr. Higgins. I don't mean to leave
That's
you out.
okay, no problem.
Okay.
It's now open to the public. Any questions from the audience? Anyone else care to be heard? Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
Note for the record that Mr. Rocinio and I assume his clients are in.
We are here, we have no questions,
Yeah.
thank you very much, we're satisfied with the representations of Mr. McComber and the work that was done by both his engineer and Mr. Fitzgerald in the resolution of this issue, thank you.
Okay.
I'll make a motion.
For the
Second.
For the record, that was,
Yeah, good.
if you could pick it up, that was Mr. Rocinio representing neighbors. Thank you.
Close the public hearing. Right?
Motion?
Was there a second?
I second.
Mr. Worrell, call the roll, please.
Yes.
Those bills are getting to
Yes.
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 Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, action,
Make a positive motion for a positive.
subject to Mr. Fitzgerald's reports, comments and approvals.
Let the chairman say.
Second by Mr. Worrell. Call the roll, please.
Yes.
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 Yes. We're
Mr.
lucky.
Chairman, now that I have nothing to gain, that you've approved the application, I do want to say something. This could have been an adversarial issue. It could have been a problem between neighbors, and because of your professionals and the proactive nature of your professionals, they solved the problem for everybody, to everyone's benefit. And it's a rare enough thing, and I just feel compelled to say that.
We appreciate the profession.
Thank you
Appreciate
very
your
much.
comments. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Give me your email. so I can
Absolutely.
send you a
Okay,
copy.
next case, case number 3.
Oh, who's the card? Just
Roger
write it down.
Mizrahi, block
Another thing.
22,
So
lot 7, 228 Roosevelt Avenue,
You get a
North 4
resolution
zone.
before.
It's an application to demolish an existing residence
I
and
like to send it to
construct
the
a
attorney.
new single-family residence with variances for non-conforming minimum lot size,
I may
minimum
have
lot
it.
depth,
You had it up
side yard
a couple
setback,
months
as well as a
ago.
maximum
You had
lot
it a couple
coverage. Turn
months
to the
ago.
applicant, Robert D. Farmer, Esquire.
No, you had something before. A while ago. I may still have the email though. Okay, thanks.
Thank you very much.
No. I know you're not.
Take it easy, Arnold.
Thank you so much. Good to see you.
Can I see you?
It's Ram?
Yeah, it's Rand, Richard Armin, number.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, don't hold it.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman of the Board, Robert Farber appearing for the applicant. I'll sit while Mr. Higgins reads the reports. I will point out that some of the
You know the
issues
drill.
that you were concerned about in your initial report have been addressed in the revised plans, particularly regarding the positive
All
criteria.
right, Amy, did you mark the packet B1,
Yeah.
please,
Thank
with
you.
today's date, and then we'll go right to Mr. Higgins' report.
Okay. It's a short report, so I'll read it. It's the applicant is requesting to remove the existing one-story residence and replace it with a two-story residence. The site is an irregularly shaped site with 104 feet of frontage on Roosevelt Avenue and a depth of 93.8 feet. It abuts New Jersey Coastline Railroad tracks to the immediate east. The site is undersized for the zone with regard to lot depth, 100 feet required, 93.8 feet exists, and lot area, 10,000 square feet required, and 8,527 square feet exists. An existing pool and patio surround, which were constructed in violation of zoning approval, are proposed to remain. In addition, variances are necessary for side yard setback, 25 feet required, 30.4 feet exists, and 24.8 feet is proposed. Maximum lot coverage, 27% of buildable area is permitted, 25.7% of buildable area exists, and 28.44% of buildable area is proposed. Existing structure setback, 10 feet is required. The existing patio is 3.7 feet. There's an existing shed that doesn't conform that's being removed. And they're proposing a shed at 6.8 feet, a pergola at 7.3 feet, and to maintain the existing patio at 3 feet 7 inches, or 3.7 feet. Accessory structure setback, again, rear setback, that was side setback, rear setback. The patio exists at 6.8 feet, and the pool and the patio were constructed in violation of the zoning approval. The pergola is proposed at 6.8 feet for the rear setback, and the patio is proposed to remain at 6.8 feet. Minor existing nonconformities for minimum gross floor area, where 1,400 square feet is required and 1,350 square feet exists. An accessory structure side setback, 5 feet is required and 2.6 feet exists, are being eliminated. The applicant should provide testimony as to why the existing non-conforming patio pool surround were constructed in violation of zoning approval and the extent of the deviation from that zoning approval. With regard to the positive criteria, I can see no planning justification for the granting of the variances for maximum lot coverage or side and rear yard setbacks. That's primarily of the patios and the pergola. With regard to negative criteria, the applicant should demonstrate that the variances will not have a significant negative impact on adjacent properties.
Thank you. Fitzgerald's report, you want me to read that? Basically says I'm okay now,
Engineering wise.
engineering wise.
Subject to the finalization of all plans and supporting documents in all respects to the satisfaction of the board engineer.
Oh, it always says that.
Well, do you want to make sure?
Right. Good evening. With regard to something Mr. Higgins said, I just would like to point out to the board, we did submit new plans on May 2nd, new engineering drawings, new plans, and as pertains to the coverage variances, that has been alleviated. Currently, 27 is required for building. We're now down to 26.83%. 90% impervious. That wasn't really an issue with 70.22 now. So those concerns have been addressed. As far as rear and side yard setbacks, I think those have been addressed, but we will offer testimony. I would like to call as a, pardon me?
5-3. Did you see that?
No, I didn't see that.
Is there something?
No, that's okay. Go ahead.
Okay. I'd like to call as a first witness Matt Dubois from Nelson Engineering. And he'll be sworn in.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
State your name and address in connection with the application, please.
It's Matthew Dubois. I work for Nelson Engineering, 1750 Bloomsbury Avenue. I did the engineering drawings and plot plan for the
Could
application.
you spell your last name, please?
Oh, Dubois is D-U-B-O-I-S.
Mr. Dubois, you are a licensed engineer of the state of New Jersey.
Yes, sir.
Have you appeared before this board as an expert witness in the past?
I have.
Yeah, I believe he has. We'll accept this
Just ask
credential.
you to accept him as an expert. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Matt, why don't you describe for the board, very, very briefly, there really aren't any major engineering concerns, but I would like you to address the project and describe it for the board.
The applicant is looking to demolish the existing building and build a new one in the same spot.
Just
It
one
is-
moment. You're referring to, I think, a site plan that's in the packet, correct?
Can we mark that?
I actually prepared a separate exhibit that's an enlarged view that combines
Yeah,
both the
we'll
plot
mark it
plan
A1.
and utility
Yeah,
plan.
mark it A1. Thank you. I'm sorry, Matt, go ahead.
As part of the application, we're also seeking to remove the shed. We're no longer asking for a new shed in its place, so any variances related to the shed are gone now. We're also seeking permission to construct a pergola on the eastern side of the existing patio, removing a small portion of that would have extended also to the east. This slightly reduces our patio setback variance requirement, and we shrank the size of the pergola compared to our last plan from, I believe it used to be about 24 feet, and it's now only 20 feet long.
Okay, so if you can, Jim's report did not take into account
Yeah.
the 5-3 plans, okay?
That is correct.
So,
Yeah.
and we're trying to get the exact numbers here. We're eliminating the maximum lot coverage variance, that's out.
That's
What
correct.
you say,
That's
bring it in,
correct.
26.6. You're eliminating any variances for the side yard setback for the shed, that's gone, right? No shed.
That's correct, no shed.
Okay, so then on the side, you have a pergola. What's gonna be the side yard setback of the pergola now?
The side yard setback for the pergola is 5 feet, and the rear yard setback for the pergola will be 6.8 feet.
That stays the same, okay, so it's 3.7, okay, and the pergola is 6.8, okay, that's the two numbers, okay, and the rear yard setback for the patio,
The rear setback for the patio is 7.1 feet, and to the side yard we have 6.9 feet.
okay, so 6.9 from 3.7, so that's you
We are improving it,
reduced it,
just
right.
we haven't been able to
And
eliminate it.
the rear yard setback from 6.8 to 7.1.
That's
right?
correct.
Which is the same as the pergola, because it's over it, right? Is the pergola over the patio?
The pergola is replacing a portion of the patio.
What was that side yard, rear yard setback for the pergola?
The current rear yard setback for the pergola is 6.8 feet.
Okay, that stays the same. Okay, that stays the same. And the patio was at 6.8, now it's going to 7.1. You moved it 3 inches.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. No. So these are the numbers.
Is the pergola an open structure?
I actually haven't seen the architectural plans for that, so I'd have to defer that to the
It
architect.
is, I can represent
Rob,
that.
Rob, you're not gonna be picked up. You need a microphone to speak into.
you can use
Mr. Higgins, I can represent. We will have the architect
Okay,
testify, but it
okay.
is an open pergola.
Okay. That's a little better. The lot coverage.
And then since the last submission, we also have addressed Bill's concerns. We slightly more than doubled the size of the drainage system, added some isolator rows to help with maintenance of it. It can now contain the entire 100-year storm runoff from not only from the increase in impervious area compares to existing, and also the increase compares to what was approved for the previous pool application.
So, okay, did you change? And you should have it on the plans. Before we have the minimum gross floor area at 1,400 square feet, did you reduce the size of the house at all?
The size of the house
No,
did.
the house is gonna be larger. The
Oh,
existing
it's
house
larger
is
than the
14,
existing.
it's 13.
We shrank the existing house, I believe, by also 3 inches. Or the proposed house by 3 inches.
Right now, minimum gross floor area is 13.5, 1,350. Is it gonna be less than that?
I
Uh,
think my architect.
Yeah, let the architect
Okay.
handle that one. They've
Accessory structure,
eliminated it.
side yard, what's that?
They have an accessory shed that they're removing.
That's the one
So,
you're talking
yeah,
about here?
both of those are, they're non-conforming conditions that are being removed.
Oh, both
So,
of those.
The
Okay.
new house is gonna be larger than 1,400 square feet.
I'm
Okay.
missing the way you
Yeah,
set it
okay.
up.
Okay.
Got it. So that those two current nonconformities as part of this plan will be removed.
You're
as a-
being
as a
eliminated, yeah.
Positive,
Yeah.
positive, as a positive. Okay.
And some of the tiling or the surround of the pool has been.
Roger, you're not being picked up on a microphone, and
Forget it.
people out there in TV land are gonna be very upset.
No one's watching this, I hate to
I
say
watch
it.
it, I watch it every time.
Well, you were here. Mr. Dubois, and there is removal of the patio area to make it more conforming, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Just as an aside, describing this lot, it abuts the railroad tracks along the side, correct?
Not the longest side, but
Well-
along the eastern side. There's a
The
bunch of
eastern
railroad
side.
tracks.
That's correct.
There's a street.
And just observing the property, in the sight lines of where the pergola would be, there is a frame shed to adjoining property. Correct?
Yes, there is.
Likewise, on the, I guess this would be the western side of the property, there is a frame shed that would probably block the view of the pool, the pergola, the whole backyard, on the adjoining lot, correct?
That's correct. And the pergola should also help block the site of the railroad from the neighbor to
What else?
the east
I didn't hear.
or west. Well, the pergola should also help block the view of the railroad for the neighbor to the west.
Oh, okay. So the adjacent site has a what?
Shed,
A shed,
there are sheds on.
which abuts the patio and pergola on our side?
Mr. Dubois, the property has an adjoining property that abuts on the southern side, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
As well as on the
And
western
pergola
side, correct?
On the west.
And on the eastern side, it's a railroad set of tracks, correct?
Yes, it is.
There's currently a solid wall, fence, correct? On the property?
Yes, there is.
Okay. And as far as, just for purposes of the record, for the southern homeowner, the view of where the proposed pergola would be blocked by a frame shed, correct?
I'm not entirely sure where their home is, but you wouldn't be able to see the pergola if you're in their backyard in the vicinity of the shed.
Okay. And can we say the same thing about the western property with the placement of the shed?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. No further questions of this witness? You're not done yet.
We'll let 'em
That's,
finish.
that's a shed on somebody else's property?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, we're not putting a shed on this one.
We're not putting
Okay,
a shed.
I understand what you're saying
I
is
was talking
that,
about it for
Okay.
sightlines, so
So I understand.
Not being picked up.
contemplate it with negative right.
Gotcha.
Not being picked up.
Okay.
I got you. So the shed that the engineer is speaking of are on other properties, so they actually block the view of this improvement, which is a little too close. That's your testimony, basically.
That's his testimony.
Is he finished with his testimony?
I'm finished with his direct. If there are
Okay.
any questions with the
Okay,
board.
any questions from the board? Concerns?
I guess the only question I have, I mean, there was, testimony that was given goes well towards the negative criteria, even though the engineer is not a planner. But I haven't heard any positive criteria for the granting of those variances.
You haven't
It
heard
may, it may very well be that it exists, but we haven't heard it yet.
my architect can address that.
Okay.
Okay. Jim, I just want to follow up. I'm sorry, any questions from the public for the witness? Okay, Jim, I want to follow up with just one comment on your, because it's in your report, where you said the applicant should provide testimony as to why the existing non-conforming patio pools surround were constructed in violation of zoning approval and to the extent of the deviation from that zoning approval. Is that still?
I still think he had a zoning approval. Now, I don't know what that zoning approval was, whether it was by the board or whether it was submitted to the zoning officer and she signed off on it because it was fully conforming, but then it was not constructed in accordance with that zoning approval. And I think we need to know what that approval was and why it wasn't constructed in conformance with it, and you know, if there's, what were the reasons for doing that? That's
If you
That's
need to
the-
hear that, I can have Mr. Mizrahi testify.
Okay.
Okay, let's, I don't know whether you wanna put him on next, or you wanna wait till later.
Might as well. Mr. Mizrahi, could you come up? Thank you, Matt.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay, just give us your name and address for the record, please.
Roger Mizrahi, 1131 East 26th Street, Brooklyn, New York, 11210.
Mr. Mizrahi, you currently own the property,
Yes, I do.
and you did apply for a permit to build the pool and approvals, correct?
Yes, I did.
Now, to your knowledge, was the pool itself placed in the correct location for your approvals?
As far as I know.
The issue may have been with the size of the patio.
Probably, yes.
Okay. If there are any problems with the side of the patio, would you be amenable to it being adjusted to the board's satisfaction?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Yeah, but the zoning officer's report does say it's the pool patio that wasn't constructed in conformance.
Okay.
So
So they,
I just don't know what the approval was at that point in time. Would you be willing to have it constructed in accordance with that approval at that time?
Yes, I will.
Okay.
Well, I might add that I understand what you're saying, Mr. Higgins, but to the extent we're before you now and it does show plans, it might just be easier with all the construction going on and the change of the property if what you decide, which theoretically can supersede prior approvals, just meets your acceptance. And in that event, rather than go with what the initial plan said regarding the deck, the patio area, just approve what's before you. I think that's cleaner, I think it's neater, and I think it will comport better with hopefully the house that will ultimately be built. Is that okay, Mr. Higgins?
That's up to the board.
That's up
I
to
mean,
the
if
board.
it's
It's
conforming,
notice.
it's as clean and neat as it can be. And that's where, you know, I don't know whether this prior approval was variances, because back, prior to a year ago, I wasn't involved in the residential applications, so I don't know if this was an application before this board at that point in time that was approved with variances, or whether it was a fully conforming application submitting to the zoning officer, in which case, if it can be done fully conforming, I'm not sure what the positive reasons would be for the granting of the variances.
Well, I just moved to the board that you have it within your power to supersede whatever's there, just for neatness and finality tonight. So,
Can I
it's
ask
your
you, Jim?
decision.
Jim, so I understand precedential, everything you're saying, but what is the variance right now from what would be conforming for that patio?
For the patio, I think
Like
it's,
if you had to summarize it for me in X percentage more than what it should be, could you do that?
okay, what's required is 10 feet. What's being proposed for the pergola on the side yard is 5 feet. For the patio, it's 7.9 feet. Okay, that's the side yards. For the pergola, for the rear setback, it's 6.8 feet, and for the patio, it's 7.1 feet. And again, the requirement's 10 feet.
So
So
was that?
let me ask you, what would you have been comfortable with if this was a clean?
Uh,
If this was not constructed already?
if this was not constructed already, unless there's a hardship of some sort that deals with the property, that would require those variances, and since there was actually an application that apparently fully conformed, I don't see how there could be a hardship. Or if there's a C2 situation where the benefits substantially outweigh the detriments, and we haven't heard anything on that, so
Okay, so
I don't
maybe
know.
your architect will touch on it.
The architect will touch on, but I would just like to not lose sight of the fact that a lot of the areas that we're talking about nonconformities, and remember the salutary purpose of the ordinance is to protect the neighbor, noise and usage. We're talking about railroad tracks. A lot of this impacts upon Conrail. And I don't think extending the patio in any way, shape, or form disturbs the New Jersey Transit passengers.
But
who are on
you
the trains.
probably have your
Okay.
architect say that, right? I mean, I appreciate what you're saying, but.
I would ask to call next Anthony Condoris, who is a licensed architect.
yeah. And just, I don't disagree.
No, I know, and I didn't raise it.
That,
I
but
didn't
that's,
cut you off
that's
this far,
again,
but I
that's
just
the
think you
negative
want to-
criteria, that's not the positive.
We'll get. Go ahead.
Raise your right hand,
You need
please.
to be sworn in.
Yes, I do.
swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
Yes, I do.
Give us your name and address in connection with the application.
Sure. Anthony Conduris, Condouris, 20 Bingham Avenue, Rumson, New Jersey. I'm the architect for the home proposed on the property. I'm a licensed architect in the state of New Jersey. I've testified in front of this board, but it was years ago. I believe it was upstairs. That's the last time I was here. But I've testified in many boards throughout the state.
Okay, we'll accept your credentials.
Thank you very much. Anthony, could you please describe the home that's being proposed right now?
Yes.
There's a mic there too.
Okay, just to review a little bit, we are proposing to remove the existing house and construct a new home. The home is approximately 3,000 square feet, the proposed home. And it consists of the first floor having an open floor plan with a large dining area, kitchen, family room, and one guest room on the first floor, and then a living room.
Anthony, what's the square footage of the first floor?
Need a microphone.
What's the square footage of the first floor?
The first floor square footage is 1,600 square feet.
Thank you, Russ. Okay. Please go on. I apologize for interrupting.
No problem. On the second floor, we have 5 bedrooms and 3 baths, a balcony, and then we have a roof deck.
Just excuse me a moment. For clarity of record, you're referring to your plans, which are part of the packet. Perhaps they should be A2? The architectural plan.
Yes,
They
these
are revised as of May 2nd, 2019, correct?
Correct.
Thank you. I apologize. I apologize for interrupting.
The house is a contemporary design, which is something that's very popular, maybe in the last 5 years. So this is a typical house that you are seeing a lot being built in this area, and I think it's a good upgrade for the neighborhood. And this is a tight lot, and again, it was mentioned about the railroad tracks. I think that's probably the most important thing to talk about with the pergola, because the pergola is providing a buffer to the railroad tracks.
So the homeowner will not be able to see the rail. It blocks.
Well,
the
it'll
railroad
minimize his view of the railroad tracks. Yes.
Okay.
I think we need some discussion then. You said the pergola was an open structure.
Well, I was going to clarify that, because that's not entirely true.
Yeah,
so let me just.
that's
Okay, then please
Right.
describe
So,
the pergola.
it is open, as it's not enclosed by doors. It does not have a roof. It does have a pergola structure on the roof, which is basically open slats.
Yes.
The rear and the 2 sides do have a solid material, which is the purpose of that was to provide that buffer to the railroad tracks.
And how high is it?
The height of the pergola is, sorry, I gotta get my glasses. 9 feet.
9 feet. Okay.
Generally, do you think this house as proposed would enhance the value of the neighborhood, enhance the values of the homes around it?
I do. It's a brand new house, and it's modernized and has a beautiful pool, and it'll have some nice site features that I think are going to enhance the neighborhood.
And just for the record, on the other side of the railroad tracks at abut is commercial property, correct?
Across the railroad tracks?
Yes.
I'm not sure of that. I believe that's true.
Okay. Describe the backyard and the patio and what you're going to do with it relative to the. I'm talking this. No. Mr. Malta was kind enough to give me his microphone. Describe the backyard in terms of the patio size and the patio flow and why it's designed the way it is.
If it's okay, I'll refer to the site plan for that.
Great. That's been marked as A1 already.
Right. So at the rear of the house, there is a proposed patio that's connected to the house, and there's sliding doors or French doors that come out from the living areas to access that deck, and then you step down a little bit to the pool, and the pool runs parallel with the house.
Most of the nonconformity is going to be on the eastern side, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And again, that abuts where the railroad tracks would be running, correct?
Correct.
Thank you. I have no further questions at this time.
Anybody have any questions for the witness?
Yeah, I have no problem with the testimony that the pergola is gonna provide basically a screen between the property and the railroad tracks. The question I have is, why does putting it 5 feet from the railroad tracks as opposed to 10 feet, which is required, why is that 5 foot difference something that's critical?
Well, the purpose of that was to allow enough room to have patio furniture, because most of the area around the pool is rather narrow.
What's the distance from the pool to the pergola?
It's approximately 20 feet.
20 feet, so then it would be 15 feet if you move the pergola 5 feet to the west.
That would be correct, yes.
Okay, so that's something for the board to consider, whether you think that 5 foot makes that much difference.
Just, if I may ask you, the pergola, the issue with the distance is not to disturb neighbors, correct, Anthony?
Correct.
And you're putting it closer to railroad tracks.
That is correct.
And there's currently a solid fence there, correct?
Yes.
So I just want that overview. I don't want anyone to lose sight of that.
Right.
Okay.
I will bring up one thing. If I do push the pergola further toward the pool, it would wind up being in front of the house and blocking the windows to this family room. So.
Okay. Anyone from the audience have any questions for the witness? No questions?
This is Ms. Rahi. Can you please come up? I'd like to call you.
Sure.
Don't worry.
Raise your right hand, please. You swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
What's your name and address for the record, please?
Jenny Mizrahi, 1131 East 26, Brooklyn, New York, 11210.
Thank you. Have a seat.
Sit down. Mrs. Mizrahi, your kids are for the most part grown, correct?
Yes.
And you have grandkids, correct?
Yes.
They've been, forgive me for leading, is that all right, Mr. Good?
At this hour, you can leave.
Be my guest.
Who wants to go home?
Your grandkids have been in the backyard and frightened by the train, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yes?
One of them, yes.
And
Very much.
part of your concern in addressing this was to create a buffer to make it more pleasant, to basically block as much of that view as you can, correct?
Yes.
Okay, nothing further.
I have a question. When your husband testified, he gave his address as New York. Are you going to live here?
I would love to. I would love to. Maybe once this house is built.
That's your
My
intention?
daughter lives here. Yeah. Yes.
Your intention is to live in this house?
I would love to.
That's not answering my question.
Year round.
Is that
Year round. I would love to. We're in the middle of discussing it.
Okay.
Not sure yet, so I can't,
Might
Well,
need a
if-
different lawyer.
So if you don't live here, it's just going to remain vacant when you're
Yes.
as a part-time. Okay.
Part-time to be
You're not
here
looking to
for
make
the
this into a
summer.
rental, is what I'm asking.
No. This is a summer. We come down with the kids.
Fine. Thank you. Anybody else have any
Now,
questions?
one last question. If the board in their deliberations decides that the 5 foot versus 10 foot of the pergola is a problem, would you object to the pergola being 10 feet from the property line?
Yes, because every inch, every foot counts for them to have space. I don't want them going right into the pool. I need that sit-down area for them to sit and have that, playground for them.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Nothing further, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Anyone? Last chance. Anyone from the public? Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
Make second.
Pick anybody you want. Call the roll.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes. Motion on the application. I would move for a positive resolution. I think the relevant point was the pergola. I would grant the variance for the pergola. I have no problem with it being
And the pool patio.
5 feet.
Got
They're one and the same.
bigger and further,
Yeah, I don't think.
but
I don't
it's
think
next
the
to the
railroad-
railroad tracks.
Yeah, I don't think the railroad needs any protection unless somebody's riding the train is going to be offended. But I don't think that's an issue.
Second.
Seconded. Aye. John?
Yes.
You mean all the other requirements?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's good.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Good luck.
Thank
know-
you very, very
you know
much
about
on behalf of
publishing.
my clients. Thank you, guys. Have a good evening.
Okay.
We're not used to being out this late anymore. Let's really get something for that.
That's it, that's my whole application.
No, they don't care. No, I don't care at all.
Greenhouse.
I'm offering nothing. Will it help?
It's not gonna have to say
Okay.
that.
Help or no?
13, anything but a
Last application of the evening is
I have nothing to offer.
Aaron and Allison Morgan, block 60.02, lot 7, 27 Bruins Road, West Allenhurst, in an R1 zone. There's an application to construct a new 185 square foot greenhouse with necessary variances for side yard setback. Oh, Ms. Coco.
Always a pleasure to have you at the helm here,
How do-
Mr. Good.
Don't tell Mr. Shepherd.
I would tell him right to his face.
Yeah.
You know what? I might enjoy doing that.
We're watching it. I mean, I didn't think we'd get through a whole agenda without you being here. But,
Here I am.
But here you are.
Oh, I can't. Remind me to tell you something when we're off TV.
We're off the air. Okay. No, but that's worse than.
No, I can tell everybody, just not the TV.
Okay. Amy, would you mark the packet B1, please? And Jim, we'll start with your report.
Yeah, I will summarize. The applicant wants to build a 185 square foot greenhouse and locate it 10 feet from the property line on the sunniest part of the property. It's completely glass enclosure. If it were 35 square feet smaller, it would be fully conforming. And they could actually, if they could reduce the size of the structure, which apparently they've already purchased and they can't reduce it, they could cut 2.5 feet of the depth of the greenhouse off, put it in the same location, it would have the same visual impact on surrounding properties, and be fully conforming. So I have no problem at all with this application.
Yeah, we're trying to figure out where it is. I'm looking here.
It's in Millen Farms, on the north side of the property.
It's clear you can't see it.
On the plan.
Yeah, on the plan.
Let me see which plan you have, Mr.
Yeah.
Good.
I was a little bit confused with the
I'm looking
plan.
for something that says greenhouse. Oh, a proposed greenhouse. Sorry about that.
Is this
Okay.
it? No, that's it.
We can get the Bill's report
Next to the pool.
here.
Yeah, right next to the pool.
That's all I have.
There's no railroad tracks anywhere nearby either.
This is like
And they could get a view of Hollywood.
Yeah.
20 years
You know what? We want 10-foot trees, and
Yeah.
we want a fence for the.
and you want the school bus to pull right into the greenhouse.
Yes.
All right, and Mr. Fitzgerald's report is has no problem.
No.
No septic engineering. Okay. Okay, Ms. Krimko, you waited all night. The floor
big
is all
one.
yours. Take
That's
your
all I
time.
have.
Alright. It's the best closing ever.
No, in all seriousness, I have photos I can show you. I can show you the pictures. But based on the board's professionals' reports, there's absolutely there's no impact at all, and it's placed in the only location where a greenhouse can be functional. And more importantly, there are greater than I think it's about 8 or 9 feet high. The shrubs along the property
That's
line
correct.
are taller than that.
Yeah.
So nobody will see
Yeah,
it.
the
but my
greenhouse is
clients.
9 feet high.
And obviously,
At
there's
its
no
highest.
objectors unless you have two objectors, or these.
No, they're my clients.
Your clients.
But they can stand up and object if they want.
Okay.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Any questions from the board or professionals?
Is there any utilities running to it? Is it going to be heated?
No.
Okay. Fine.
Great.
Okay.
My only question is why this one's last.
Is
Not
what?
They
first.
have electric.
My only question is to the professionals why this one's last and not first on the agenda.
It may have electric, and
If they want to heat the plants.
and if they want to heat the plants for growing, but it will not be a pool house or habitable of any
It's
sort.
a completely glass enclosure from the ground up.
That's why I asked the question.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question? What are you growing in the greenhouse?
Yeah, I was going to ask that question.
Boy.
No.
Well, come on up
Plants.
here. Come on up here and you can talk.
Come on up. You can answer the question.
Raise your right hand, please.
You don't want to go home tonight,
You
do
swear the
you?
testimony about the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Okay, name and address for the record.
Allison Morgan at 27 Bruns Road, West Allenhurst.
Okay.
07711.
Talk.
Oh, I just really want to grow some flowers. I like jade. I like anything that flowers, really. So that's the whole. It was a gift. It was a gift for my birthday back in November. So we're just trying to make it happen before my next birthday.
Well, happy birthday.
Oh, thanks.
Okay. I think Mr. Wilson made a motion.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm waiting for a second on my motion.
Nobody wanted a second. Okay, call the roll, please.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Motion for a positive resolution.
A second.
Call the roll.
Yes.
Yes.
Because they're in color.
Yes.
I'm good.
Yes.
I'm set.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. It's a wrap. Anything else?
Good luck.
Meeting is adjourned.
So, Mr. Morgan, you purchased it, and this is now all your fault.
That's right.
That's
Yeah,
exactly
yeah,
what happened.
that's
You didn't
right.
know it was